be. This chair is too tall.
It can be lowered.
It can be.
Should we have a rehearsal?
Yeah, this is part of our rehearsal.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. All right, welcome to my podcast, the Jessica Potter Podcast. I'm deciding on that, how I'll introduce it. But I have with me my cousin, Yleana Dennis. She was born and raised here in Key West, started her life and career here. She was married, had a daughter, divorced, became a hairdresser, then real estate agent, remarried, had a beautiful marriage. Husband suddenly died, was widowed, had to reinvent herself, and here we are today. She's married again for the past 12 years and here to impart womanly advice. I'm just ad-libbing. Welcome, Yleana, to my podcast.
Hi, Jessica.
I'm not driving you crazy yet, am I?
No, you make me a little nervous though, because because it makes me nervous.
Yeah, lights, camera.
Yeah.
Setting it up.
Yeah, the whole setup.
Right.
The drama.
Right.
But anyway, it is a beautiful day.
It's so beautiful. Hot when you go out there.
Very hot.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about, and then we'll decide, that's why I'm writing that little script. What are we going to talk about? And I'll have points, so then I'll lead you into the point, and then we can just discuss it like we normally do.
What do you think? What has been the main topic these past few days? Relationships and breakups and red flags and cues.
Yeah, red flags and
cues and green flags and red flags.
Knowing who you are.
Knowing who you are.
Wasn't it? There were three things: having a realistic view of yourself.
Oh wow, yes. Well, this is a lifetime process, but you can maybe apply it to your life if you know what to look for. And there's three characteristics that every person has, and one of them is how they see themselves, how other people see you, and then there is how you really are.
Right.
And I had no idea that I saw myself as this like cool, honest, bold, fun, nice, and it turns out that I'm a jerk. I have an attitude, and I'm self-inflated, and not everybody likes me. And that happened to me when I took my daughter and two other girls I was mentoring in real estate to a convention. I think it was I have to look up the name. I don't want to do that right now and waste time, but they give you a personality test, and there's 4 personality styles. There's the driver, also known as the alpha female. Mm-hmm. Then there is the maternal. You're very maternal, and sociable, and analytical. Mm-hmm. And everybody's a combination of 1 or 4. The worst of all the 4 is the driver alpha, because but I saw myself as sociable.
Right. Not as the driver, not as the
right.
alpha.
So then they give you a test, and in the testing, one dominates the other. You could be more sociable than alpha. You could be more maternal than sociable. You could be more sociable than analytical. Mm-hmm. You always have one dominating profile. And I thought I was a sociable. I knew I was an intellectual, but I knew I was definitely sociable. Mm-hmm. But I didn't relate to the driver personality. The bad one. Mm-hmm. Where 25% of the population hates your guts. Mm-hmm. And so, but I thought I was definitely sociable. But when I took the test, I was the dominating characteristic was the driver alpha female, and that created problems in my relationships with men and life, and but it was good for business, and it was good for
independence.
Yes, and independence and stuff like that. But yeah, you have to learn.
Not so good in the relationship dynamic.
No, you cannot bring in your manhood into a marriage or into a boyfriend, girlfriend, or into a relationship.
Right, that's interesting, calling it your manhood. So do you think that women develop more of that type because they had to overcome something and hardships in life?
I don't really know. I thought that being more alpha meant that you looked masculine, or that you had to be kind of masculine looking. But it really, you could be the most feminine looking woman on the planet Earth, very girly girl, but have that edge where you're controlling, and you have to run everything, and you have to plan everything, and you have to have everything a certain way, and nobody else has a say.
Right.
And I never saw that. I never saw it. But my little crew, they were like, you're a driver. Nobody likes you. That's what's wrong with you.
Right.
Yeah. And wow, it was, I'm like, what do you mean? So that was the first time I ever saw myself for who I was, and it was still a process. It was a big process. Yeah, it's a process,
And so do you think every woman should have this? Is it a personality test, or?
It's a personality test, definitely.
And you think every woman should do that?
Well, I would say that every woman and every man who over time is noticing a manifestation of the same thing happening in their life with regard to like relationships, they're only short-lived, or they don't work out, or they're having falling out with people they don't understand. It's some manifestation of some circumstance. It could be a relationship with a partner, it could be business, it could be just a life situation where you find yourself going around and around in the same place. No matter what you do, you're in the same spot the same thing happened to you 3 months ago. Same thing happened to you, a year ago. And now you're starting to think, why am I always starting over? Why are people getting angry at me? What is it that I'm doing that's wrong? Why did,
Right.
Different things just keep happening in life, and you have a tendency of blaming everybody else because you see yourself as this really nice, really cool, really together, really professional, but there's a quirk that shows up, but you don't see it, but it's affecting your relationships and the way that your life is going. You could be doing everything perfect, but this thing comes up from somewhere and it ruins everything, and you don't know what it is. So if that's happening, whatever area of your life you're in, and you're finding yourself like you were married, right?
Yes.
And you were married 23 years.
Yes.
And you saw patterns.
Right.
That repeated itself.
Right.
That were trouble, fix, trouble, fix, trouble, counseling, trouble, financial, trouble, counseling, right? And you can never fix it. And you didn't know what it was. That might be a good time to do a reflection, self-awareness, personality test, and say, what is it that is, this keeps coming up and I can't seem to get out of it.
Right.
So then you didn't figure it out, then you finally decided just to quit. You severed that marriage, right? You
Mhm.
severed, you moved on.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you find yourself in another situation and it's really great. And a year goes by, or 6 months, and the same thing that happened in those 23 years kind of like pops up out of nowhere.
Mhm.
And you go, how did this happen to me?
Yeah.
How did this happen to me? This is what happened to me before. Why is it happening to me again? That is where you have to really, 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 really find a way. It's not just counseling. This is finding out who you really are.
Mhm.
Who you really are, how do other people see you, and how do you see yourself?
Right. That it all ties in together.
It all ties in.
Yeah, because how you see yourself is really reflected in how you,
the outcome of everything.
yeah, and how you're interacting in your relationships, whether it be with your partner or with your children or professionally. If you see yourself as the you didn't see yourself as alpha. You saw yourself as sociable,
Mm-hmm.
and so that informed your relationships and behavior. But when you took the personality test, you realized
I realized that I'm not all of that.
it wasn't so. Yeah, you weren't being social. You were being
controlling, and maybe a little bit too forceful, too dominant, too pushy. It could be all of the above, none of the above, but it was subtle enough for me not to notice, right? But I thought it was because I am how I am, but it didn't, without realizing that this is what's affecting me getting ahead in relationship or getting the things that I wanted or achieving anything I wanted to do.
right.
Because something would just come back and it would go wrong and you just couldn't figure it out. You could not figure it out. You did everything right. You focused, you got up, you went to work, you did your thing, you interacted, you made money, you closed deals, you came home, your husband was happy, your daughter was happy, and then later on you find out your daughter's pissed off at you. She doesn't understand why you're always answering the phone and why you make work first, and your husband is is passive aggressive because you're doing everything you want to do and you're not really like consulting him, but you think you're doing everything perfect. Right? And then, 10 years later, your daughter's an adult and she is like what happened with me. She resented the telephone. She resented when my attention wasn't on her. She resented my career. She resented that I was successful. Anything that had to do with anything that made me self-important and feel like I've succeeded, she hated. What did I do wrong?
Yeah, because you were working as you thought.
I was supposed to provide.
As hard as you were.
That's right. Whatever I thought was wrong, I did it wrong. And it took me until she grew up for it to come back, for me to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time. And it's really kind of like a hard reality.
Right.
Because we think we are doing the best we can.
It is the best that you can.
We're doing the very best that we can, and you're doing the best that you know.
Right, you only know what you know.
Right.
You can't know what you don't know.
Thank you.
You can't.
And I didn't know that I was a jerk. I mean, I didn't know that I was doing it all wrong.
Right.
I really, really, really felt like I was a provider, that I was being a good mother, that I was living up to my commitment, and I was living up to taking care of everybody and taking care of the things that needed. You know what I mean? That the things that you think are important to you is not what's important, but you know that they are, but you don't know that they really are, because I didn't. I guess things were missing, and I didn't see it at the time.
Right. But don't you think it's important not to be harsh on yourself or judge yourself, because you can't know what you don't know, and you did do the best that you could, although
it all depends on the consequences.
Right.
I mean, what are the consequences? your daughter hates you.
Yeah.
Or, you gave your husband a heart attack and he died because of your temperament, because you thought that you were doing the right thing and it has to be this way. Or it depends. But okay, so get past all of that. The self-judgment and hard on yourself and forgiving yourself and all of that all depends on how aware you are of what you don't know, knowing it, and now that you know it, what are you going to do about it? And if you know what to do about it, because now you're really aware, but then what happens is you don't really know how aware you are, because now you have to manifest what you're aware of, and you have to see the outcome, because it doesn't change in a day. I don't change in a day.
No.
You don't change in a day.
No.
Because now you have to believe what you were like, and then you have to believe how you really are, and now you have to really live how it's going to be, the real you, who is that, and you have to see how that turns out.
Yeah.
Now you have to see how that turns out. Yes or no? Am I going off the rails here?
I don't think you're going off the rails. It reminded me of counseling that I had, and that especially these last, through the COVID years, because of the Cuban side, and the Cuban side is always the loudest side, I thought that I had a strong personality, and other people that would tell me, you have a strong personality. Their perception of me is a strong personality. My perception of myself was, I have a strong personality. It must be difficult for people to be close to me, although it seemed contra to what I understood of my own pet name, that the family would be the marshmallow, soft, sensitive. But through the counseling, and I thought, I must be so difficult and everything, and that word comes out, you're codependent, and that flips that all upside down. Because a codependent person isn't a strong-willed person. A codependent person is a person without will, without boundaries, a boundaryless
I never understood
person.
it. It's really, I think we talked about this the other day, but I still don't get it really.
What codependency is?
Yeah, I'm trying.
I'm still learning what codependency is.
Yeah, and I there's got to be a really good example that I can relate to.
Right.
Maybe that.
You can't tell yourself, I'm a strong-willed person, and then the boundary that you set is completely, blown through and not respected. If you can't set a boundary and hold it, you're not so strong-willed, because your will is completely overpowered. We're gonna have to pause our.
I know, but God, this turned out pretty good.
It turned out, and I could even use this for snippets and things for teasers and whatnot. I'll take a portion of it. Yes, it is. It's great, and we can see how it looked later.
My husband's coming to ruin everything. Shit.